Hi, it's been a while since I've made a video, and I like to make one at least once a month just to keep up on how things are going for me. I'm very tired today, so it feels like a big push for me to even figure out what to come up with to say. But I made a couple notes for myself. I've been doing this protocol, this herbal protocol, for like the last couple months through the Maderi Center, and they treat a lot of people for cancer. And then, of course, like we're focusing on the ITP for me, the platelet issue, because I've been dealing with that for, it'll be 2 years in June. Actually, it is 2 years because it's actually February of 2019 when it happened, but we didn't find out about it till June. My platelets haven't gone up. I've been doing, this immune boosting stuff. I have read that it could take a lot of months for the Chinese medicine or any kind of herbal thing to really take effect. Take like many months, maybe even up to a year, and it's really only been 2 months. So in some ways, I wasn't really expecting any miracles to happen with my platelets, but I did try my third drug, Doptelet. That's it's a booster for the platelets in the bone marrow, and I had the doctor look into that. He started me on 20 milligrams, which is the standard. It had no effect, so he kicked me up to 60 milligrams. I started getting this kind of like wrenching in my, like up here, sort of like liver-ish area, intensely wrenching kind of feeling. And I started doing research on the Dopplet and saw that 60 milligrams was for somebody that had chronic liver condition, and I have ITP. And so I ended up actually calling the pharmaceutical manufacturer, and it was pretty cool to be able to talk to them. I spoke to, I guess she was a pharmacist, and the end result of it was that the people that the chronic liver condition folks take 60 milligrams because they take it for like 5 days in a row. And I had been taking it for about a month. And I called the doctor's office and spoke to the staff there and said, could you tell the doctor that I'm not going to take 60 milligrams anymore? And I'd like to know why he had me on that. I dropped myself down to 40 milligrams, which is what they had done studies for and what they recommended. It specifically said do not exceed 40 milligrams. So I was really like clueless as to why he had me on 60, and I still never got a good answer for that. As was expected, my platelets dropped. So when I was on the 60 milligrams, my platelets went up to 43,000, which somebody suffering with ITP knows that's like a totally decent number. The normal range is 150 to 450, but when you live with them being like 15, 43 is great. So I was so pleased. And also I noticed we drove somewhere and went on a hike, and I felt so energetic. It was great. I was like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to, feel normal again and have energy and have like a lust for life and want to do things. And, it's really a bummer to like not feel energetic and to just feel tired all the time. It's a shitty way to live life, feeling tired. We talked again, and he said, I guess that didn't work for you. And so we talked again about Rituxan. And the thing about Rituxan is that I was supposed to do that many months ago, and he actually was like super surprised I hadn't done it. He's like, why haven't you? And I've been resistant to doing it, mostly because I'll be back in the infusion center. I no longer have the port. I have my port scar, my battle wound, to be able to administer the stuff. And it's a monoclonal antibody, which is the same as what the Herceptin was, which is some of the targeted therapy I did for the HER2 part of the breast cancer, being triple positive. It's like estrogen, progesterone, and HER2. A big reason why a lot of women are living with breast cancer diagnoses is because the Herceptin targeted therapy. Anyway, getting a little tangential there, huh? The Rituxan is a monoclonal antibody. So anyway, sitting in an infusion chair, and it is used for either non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or Hodgkin's lymphoma. I'm not sure which one. I don't know the difference. That's interesting. And then the other thing is like not having the port, they're going to have to stick my veins, and I'm a hard stick. So a couple side effects. And I know I've said this before because it's scary. The one one or two of the side effects are like basically become a vegetable. And that's scary to me to consider putting myself at risk for something like that. But it's also really hard to live with platelets. Like, I would not be surprised if my platelets are 15 or, 13,000 right now, which is not good. I will start that on the 22nd. Today is something like February 10th. It's 4 weeks. I'm doing 4 consecutive Mondays. The first infusion is like 6 hours long because they have to give it to you in a really slow drip. They have to give you Benadryl and Tylenol. They call that pre-meds. It's just so similar to what it was like going through chemo. And then my other worry is just that, like, what if my body is not doing well? What if, like, this sort of knocks me out in a way that, like, affects my liver or just has other negative repercussions? Like, my platelets go up, but now my liver is, like, destroyed or something. So these are the things that people with health issues, chronic health issues, have to decide for themselves. I've become used to it now, I guess, in the last 3 years, but it's not something that I've dealt with before. Yeah, what else? There's a couple other things. I lost a friend. I lost a really good friend to cancer a few weeks ago, and we had some distance in our lives because she had moved to India and I was doing different things in my life, and we were just part of a broader social circle together. But she was at my wedding and she was at my birth, the birth of my daughter. Being someone who's an only child, me, she's not an only child. She had like 8 brothers and sisters and like 20. She was like an auntie to 23 nieces and nephews. We were born the same exact year. Though we had a lot of distance, I felt a lot of sisterhood with her. She was diagnosed with cervical cancer after my diagnosis. Like, I remember finding that information out and I was like, I was October 2017 and I don't know her date, but it was after me. And I'm like, wow, it's a different diagnosis. The treatment was different, but there were a lot of things that we could share with one another because if you go through something like that, you have, it's so rare. I mean, it's so specific. It's sort of like, before you become a parent, you have all these ideas about being a parent. But once you are one, you join the club and you get it in a different way than you didn't get it when you weren't a parent. And so it's like that with cancer too, like I would always say you never know what you do until it happens to you, because it's true. It's amazing what people think they'll do. Like, they think they'll do all kinds of things and then things start happening to you and you realize, like, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I had no idea what I'm talking about, and you have to make really hard choices. Anyway, yeah, it was very tragic, and to me it was very sudden that she died, and of course, it just brought up my own mortality, and I'm so fortunate in that I got to be with her about a month before she died. We took a walk. It was one of the things that was really shocking for me, was that she seemed so fine, so healthy. We took an hour-long walk. We were going up this pretty steep hill, huffing and puffing, and she didn't really show any signs of like needing to rest. She didn't need to rest or anything. And then like 4 weeks later, she's dead. And I'm like, wow. I mean, for me, in my mind, I mean, I guess that's what can happen with any illness, but it can sneak up on you, or it can just sort of just take you out quickly. And I felt like she was taken out quickly. She was stage 4 for a while. She did some treatments in Mexico, and at first they seemed like they were helping, and then the second time she went, they weren't. And I have some waves of sadness and emotion and things like that come up when I think about her. Today I thought about her and I just was singing in the car. I was singing out to her and telling her I loved her, and it humbled me. That happened, and then another friend of mine who's younger than me, she had a cancer diagnosis in December, and then she came to find out in January that it actually had metastasized to her lungs, another type of cancer, colon cancer, and so she was automatically stage 4, and that was like, I think it was a lot for both of us. She's been one of my best friends for a really long time, and I think it's just really difficult to deal with somebody else's really extreme diagnosis. Cancer is just really a big theme of my life. I have days where I feel like I'm just you know, slowly slipping away. And I think like, am I getting better or am I just slowly dying? You know, it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. When I feel like I do now, I'm like, wow, but it might just be my low platelets. I got a new primary care physician and I'm so grateful for that. She did a culture, she did a swab culture in the back of my throat because I had these like bumps back there in my throat that I didn't even know about. I just happened to be like looking looking back in the back of my throat because in something back there like a few weeks ago, it looks kind of white and I just wanted to check out how it was looking now. I don't know if I did a video since I last had a chest CT, and the chest CT came back completely clear, no evidence of disease. I have been having the phlegm, the blood in my phlegm. The whole reason I did that CT was so that I could make sure that there wasn't any lung exposure with cancer because I was having a lot of blood. That's really good news. We decided not to do the PET CT because I've had so much radiation. So I have something super weird going on with this rib. This rib is sticking out, which to me looks like underneath either the spleen or the liver could be enlarged in some way. Team Onc looks at me and he's like, there's no way you have splenomegaly, which is an enlarged spleen. And I'm like, how does he know without like, you know, palpating and checking? And I did have 2 doctors check and they're just going to do an ultrasound now. It could be a number of things, but I do want to rule out an enlarged spleen and I feel completely fine with an ultrasound. So we're going to do that. Team Onc also told me that I don't need to do the full PET CT because when you have ductal carcinoma versus lobular, I had ductal, it usually metastasizes in up top or maybe in like in the lung somewhere up top, and lobular metastasizes down below. So I'm just going with it. Having a lot of days where I feel like I might be dying or, you know, I just don't know, having a friend die so quickly and, you know, not really knowing how it's going to go at times has been really stressful and worrisome for me, especially because I have a daughter who's 12 and I really want to be there for her for as long as I can be, especially through these years. I listened to this near-death experience talk from this really great, I don't know what his credentials were, but really smart guy talking about dreams and near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. And I just really felt this like, I felt this place of surrender. I felt this place like everything's okay. My daughter's okay. I'm okay. Like whatever happens in life, everything's going to be okay. And of course, I mean, God, the last thing I want to do is leave this world and leave my daughter. At the same time, you know, it doesn't, worrying about it and stressing about it like that doesn't help anything. So anything I can do to have some perspective and be able to just surrender to what is and what's so, I think is helpful. And I've also been doing my weekly EMDR therapy, which has been really helpful. Even more helpful is that I'm part of a spiritual community and have some people in there that look out for me and that I'm connected to, and I get to do some spiritual practices that for me, they really help give me perspective more than anything and recognize the sort of impersonalness of it all. I don't think that's really a word, but, and that really helps too, you know, just every day is really a miracle. And like, we're not entitled to have an 80-year lifespan. I mean, nobody said, like, here, a friend of mine, she was 46 and she had a lot of life left in her as far as like ideas and thoughts and hopes and wishes and wants, you know, and she wasn't done living, and like something came and pulled the plug and said like, you know, you're done. And it's just, it's humbling to recognize that and realize like every day is a gift and every day is a miracle. And I need my spiritual community and the people there and the teachings that I, you know, take in, because I need that perspective supported and validated, because it helps me not be freaked out about my health situation. I don't know if it'll improve, and I hope that it does, but in the meantime, I'm doing my best to just live the best life that I can, do things that are meaningful. And for me, studying astrology, doing the spiritual work that I'm doing, and a little bit of writing, spending time with my daughter, spending time with my cat. We're about to get a dog, like spending time in nature, taking my walks every day, seeing the birds and seeing the trees, and really doing my best to just be present with life for every bit that I can and not be so hurried and rushed and, frenetic. And I am still running a business, which is kind of insane in some ways, but I'm barely running a business. I resell online and I'm keeping it going and it's actually doing really well. And part of me is like, God, it could be doing amazing if I really put a lot of energy and effort into it, but I don't have enough energy for that. And I also don't want my whole life to be about like my business. So before COVID happened, it was, I really was about to just devour my whole like career and just like go for it. And then, everything happened in such a way that I feel so grateful that I get to do it. And I don't want it to be such a huge identification and also a huge consumer of my energy and time. So anyway, that's my little update and that's about it. I'm just trucking along, and supposedly this Rituxan treatment, if it works for me, it's like a 60% effectiveness rating. The people get like 24 or so percent of the people get put into remission with the ITP for the rest of their lives. Some people can be in remission for like a year, 5 years, and you can do Rituxan once a year. If I were to go in remission with the ITP, like who knows how long I'd stay like that. We'd check the platelets, and if they started to come down again, I could do it again. I think it's considered ineffective if you don't get the result of regular normal platelets like 8 weeks after the treatment's done. I also looked into having my spleen removed. That's basically like the end of the line for people, although plenty of people have had their spleen removed and still have ITP, which to me is like, man, if that's not a slap in the face, I don't know what is. Be like, are you kidding me? I got my spleen out and I'm still having trouble with my platelets, but it does happen. And it increases your risk for infections, and it's got some downsides, that's for sure. I don't even know if I would choose that, but it can be done laparoscopically, which is much less invasive than an open surgery. And it was just good to get the information to see like, okay, would I ever consider that? And right now I'm like a 90% no on it, but it felt good to at least know what I was saying no to by looking up, what is actually involved. So I do still have that as an option, but I'm really crossing my fingers the Rituxan works. It works for 2/3 of the people, and I hope I'll be one of the lucky ones. So, okay, now I'm done blabbing on. Thanks for being there. Thanks for listening. And yeah.